Loving Jesus to Death. The name is somewhat derived from Josiah Queen's song, Love You to Death. I love the song, but it's mostly derived from the want to love Jesus like his apostles did. 1 John 4:19 reads, "We love because he first loved us." So to love, we should love like he loves us. It said that all of Jesus' apostles died gruesome deaths, except for John, who's said to have died of natural causes. James, the first apostle to be martyred, was killed by King Herod Agrippa the First in Acts 12, and his is the only documented death in the Bible. Judas betrayed Jesus and then hanged himself, and I mean technically this is documented, but it's not the same as the others. Andrew was crucified on an X-shaped cross in Greece, and Peter was crucified upside down at his request in Rome by Emperor Nero. Paul was beheaded in Rome by Emperor Nero, and Philip, some say he was crucified, but others say he was stoned in Asia. Bartholomew was flayed in Armenia, and Thomas was impaled in India with a spear. Matthias was stoned and then beheaded. Simon the Zealot was reportedly martyred at an old age or sawn in half in Persia, and Matthew was likely killed in Ethiopia by the sword. The fact that these men went as far as death for Jesus is, in my opinion, enough evidence that Jesus Christ is our Savior and that he did die and rise. I mean, there's historical evidence that Jesus did die, but it's him rising from the death that makes him our Savior. I aspire to love Jesus like they did. To get to love Jesus any chance I get without denying him in front of anybody. Matthew 10:33 says, "But whoever denies me before men, I will also deny him before my Father who is in heaven." It's shocking what you can find about Jesus. And it just pulls you closer and closer because it makes you believe in him more and more. This isn't exactly why I turn to Jesus for everything. As most Christians do, I do have a testimony. And although I personally feel mine may not be as powerful than others, I still know I could have some sort of impact on someone. I gave testimony at this thing called Fields of Faith back in October. And what you're going to hear is the exact same thing, except more in-depth and personal with things that may have happened throughout my life. There's a lot of things that I jumped over in my testimony at the Fields of Faith. And some of this testimony I've never shared with anyone, so bear with me. A lot of it might be a struggle. I want to start with the verse that I've been living by since I found it back in July. It's in Psalm 118, which Psalm 118 is the middle chapter of the Bible. And 117 before it is the shortest chapter. 119 is the longest. There's 594 chapters before and after Psalm 118. And if you add up all the number of chapters without Psalm 118, you're going to get 1,188 chapters. 1188. 1,188. Or Psalm 118 verse 8 is the very middle verse of the Bible, and it reads, "It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in man." I have lived by this verse so much because I trust too easily. So being able to trust God with everything really helps. I've gotten into situations where I've trusted people and they hurt me. But I can trust God and not be hurt. Because he won't do anything to hurt me. I was raised in a Christian home, as you would call it. Church on holidays. We believe in Jesus, but there was really nothing else to it. But then my dad passed away. Today is actually the 12-year anniversary of me recording this. Today marks 12 years since my dad passed. And you're watching this on a different day, probably. Almost definitely. I'm not uploading this today. But 12 years since my dad passed. I was 4. And he passed away of cancer. And although I didn't understand death, it still had an impact on me. After that, my mom got us into a youth group at a church that my brother was going to with his girlfriend. And I was in the little kids area, you know. And I was going there for years. And I mean, life was life. My mom met a man she was dating. She dated him for years. And we're going to get into stuff about him later. But they started dating in October of 2014. Them dating was off and on. As you can imagine, a not Christ-centered relationship. I got baptized in October of 2018 or 2019. I remember it was literally the week before I spoke at Fields of Faith that I got the memory on Facebook for it. I was a kid. I didn't really understand baptism. I heard about it and I mentioned, hey, well, I wonder if I could get baptized. And then the youth pastor, or just the pastor in general, he came up to me. No, he wasn't the pastor in general. He was the youth pastor. He came up to me and was like, hey, I heard you were talking about getting baptized. I was wondering if you're interested in it. And yeah, I just went straight in and I got baptized. And although I didn't really understand it at the time, it happened, and now I'm baptized, and that's awesome. That didn't stop sin from coming, like many people think baptism does. Many people think baptism stops sin. Not at all. I started experimenting with porn at the age of 11. I know it's not as young as most, but it's also still really young to start messing with something so powerful that you shouldn't mess with. Biggest mistake of my life, or at least one of the biggest mistakes. And that led down a rabbit hole. It was horrible. COVID came, and all I did was stay inside. And I'll be real, that porn addiction grew. And my youth group split up. So I had no input from God. And I didn't know him. I knew God, but I didn't know God. In January of 2021, I was in 7th grade. We went down to a place in Columbus called Scene 75 or 76. I can't remember. Scene 75 or 76. And super fun, giant arcade. Was like 3 or 4 floors of arcade games, and there was bumper cars and stuff, and absolutely insane, like crazy amount of games. I did feel something was off that day, but obviously I didn't have an instinct, so I didn't go for it. Afterwards, my mom and her boyfriend went to a bar, and we stayed at his house. I slept on an air mattress in his living room. And at 2 a.m. or somewhere around then, they came barging in the house, yelling at each other. He was drunk. My mom was angry with him because he's done this before, getting drunk and then throwing a fit about crap. And he was supposedly jealous about my dad, talking about how my mom would always post about him come January 9th. Because, well, that's her husband. She lost her husband, so why can't she post about him? And it'd been 8 years since he had passed away. Why can't she post about her husband's death? I mean, it's been 12 years and it still friggin' messes with me. I've had a really long day. And I don't want to get into the exact details, but screaming, crying, and it got to a point where he ran to his bedroom and pulled out his gun. And we don't know if he was threatening to shoot us or himself, but he was waving that thing around like it was a toy. I ran down there with a giant butcher knife, or kitchen knife, whatever it was. But I threw it away from me when they told me to leave the room because my mom didn't want me getting shot. So I ran out of the room and threw the knife on the ground. Luckily didn't hurt anyone. After that, my relationship with Christ, well, although hardly existed, got worse. And I mean, 8th grade was rough. Then my freshman year came, and that's when I was like locked in on YouTube. I mean, you can see on my wall back here, YouTube play button. It's not worth anything. But I was locked in on YouTube, and I do very much regret that because I didn't take care of myself. I didn't exercise. I gained so much weight. Dude, I was so out of shape, so overweight, and I kept making these videos that I thought were gonna fulfill me. I thought the views on YouTube would fulfill me, and they didn't. February of 2022, 2023, I hit 100,000 subscribers. It's on the wall there during my freshman year. But then April came, April 2023, and I met a girl on this app that was designed for teenagers to make friends. Her and I quickly grew close. We would chat every day, snap every day on Snapchat, and play video games together. After a while of chatting with her, her and I were really good friends, and I began growing feelings for her. I mean, a lot of guys end up growing feelings for a girl best friend. So it's pretty common, but I was scared. She lived 8 hours away in a small town in Pennsylvania. So I hid the feelings as much as I possibly could, and they pressurized a ton. Started manifesting as anxiety. This is one of those things that I've not shared with anyone, so bear with me while I try to get my facts straight. I had a good friend who helped me a ton and told me I can't just let this manifest as anxiety. I can't just hold it in like this and expect it to go away. Expect these feelings for someone to go away. I can't just... No, it doesn't work that way. So I told her. I told this girl that I liked her when she lived 8 hours away in Pennsylvania. And she told me she had to think about it for a little while. And then for the next 2 weeks, we hardly talked. And over this time, I began growing this crazy, deep depression and anxiety. And all I would do was sit in my bed, play on my computer, and go to school. And eat. I ate a lot. After some time, I asked her about it, and she told me that, I like you too. But then she never talked to me again. Barely, at least. We had streaks, but then we eventually lost him. And then one day, she sent me a snap that said that her mom was making her block me. At the time, I didn't know how to feel. Was she lying? Is this her way of ghosting me? But I now realize that was God's way of removing her from my life, and I couldn't be happier about it. God took initiative when I didn't know him. This girl was not Christian. She said that she kind of believed in God, but wasn't sure what to believe in exactly. While I was the kid who always believed in God. I mean, my name is Christian after all. Of course I am a Christian. After this happened, I was like shocked. And I really, really wish I would have responded in a better way. But all I responded was I don't know how to feel. But I am so glad this happened. It's like I wouldn't be who I am now without it. It's like lore. It's character development. Canon event, except it didn't happen between October and December. I didn't have a canon event in 2024, believe it or not. It was really weird. But there's some stuff that we'll get into later. I'm so glad this happened, and it taught me I can't rely on this app to find my person. I can't rely on an app, and I can't, especially as a teenager, I have so much time. Why worry about it? And that's kind of contradicts with some things I'll be talking about later, but I have so much time. Why worry about it? That July, my family and I went to Arizona to visit my bigger family, like my entire family, because I live in Ohio and it's with my mom and my siblings, but the rest of my family lives out in Arizona. So we went out there to visit for a few weeks, and that was awesome. And then when I got back, my brother invited me to go through this thing that is hosted at my church called the Bryan Awakening. This awakening, it's a spiritual awakening, as you'd assume. It's called the Awakening. It's a 3-day retreat for teenagers, boys and girls, different weekends, don't worry, to learn about Jesus in so many different ways. And during the weekend, the teens attending or sleepers will sit through 15 different talks from people who are not professional speakers. I've given one of these talks. I am not a professional speaker, but they often have a very heavy testimony. Many of these talks may be even given by their peers. Like I said, I've given one of these talks before. November of 2023, I gave one. I love these weekends. I've served so many times, and I can't stop. They give me purpose. Helps me express my love for God. And I'll admit, a lot of times I have felt like I don't belong in this community. I don't belong here. But God reassures me, and some of the community reassures me that I'm welcome. The image of the awakening, this is from the website. The image of the awakening comes from 1 Samuel 3, 1 through 10. Samuel's a boy who ministers to the Lord under Eli, the priest. One night Samuel is lying down within the temple of the Lord. The Lord calls Samuel, Samuel, but Samuel did not yet know the Lord, and the word of the Lord had not been revealed to him. So he didn't recognize who was calling. He thought it was Eli. After the Lord calls Samuel 3 times, Eli perceives that it's the Lord calling. He instructs Samuel to respond with, "Speak, Lord, for thy servant hears." When the Lord calls again, Samuel does as Eli instructs and hears from the Lord. And this is literally hosted at the church every July and November. It's awesome. It's for teenagers in high school. 14 through 19 high school. Or 15 through 19 preferably. High school. I went through right before I turned 15. So this weekend for me, it started off really uncomfortable, and it was difficult the entire weekend, in fact, just to open up. But it really did begin to grow on me. And although no, I didn't have a table group like many other people get, a table group that was super welcoming and open arms. I wasn't super open and vulnerable with them. I still started to love the weekend. On Friday and Saturday nights, we have this thing called meditation before we go to sleep, right after everything is over with and we're about to go to bed. And on Friday meditation, there was something in the corner of my eye. I was sitting there, hands clasped together, just wondering, what am I doing here? I didn't understand why I was there. In the corner of my eye, I saw a figure. It sat down next to me. It didn't speak. And after it sat down, it didn't move. This figure resembled my dad. I remember it very clearly. And I sat there for at least 5 minutes just sitting next to my dad. And of course, I don't know if it really was my dad. I don't even know if my dad made it into heaven. But I have faith that it was, and that my dad did make it. And I pray constantly that he did, so I can see him and be able to understand who he is rather than being a 4-year-old kid who doesn't know him. I just know he's my dad. And I sat there. I didn't move because I was too scared of it disappearing. But then my brother came over, so I had to move. And it was gone. My dad was gone, but my brother was there because my brother was serving on the team. And he sat down next to me, prayed over me. And I said to him that I just saw my dad. And he told me that he's seen Dad several times over the course of the weekend. Sorry. I've talked about this before, and it still gets me, man. In 12 years. I didn't know him, but this is like the first time I've cried in months. At least properly cried. Since November. I went upon the weekend like usual. Just listen to the talks. I still have the first notebook that it's down there. It's the first notebook I had on the weekend with me. It has every single talk in it. All of the information I learned. To live the weekend with fresh eyes. And maybe a group that was a lot more welcoming. Need a moment. After the weekend, I was super fired up for God. And then my sophomore year of high school came around. And my friend gave me his phone number and I texted it to make sure it was in the phone, but there's this weird thingy that happened with his phone number where he had the SMS version, but someone else had the RCS version. And I ended up texting the RCS. So I texted someone else. And it was a freshman guy. And I didn't know him. And he gave my phone number to a girl. And then this girl and I talked for a while. And I'd never been in a relationship before, and I'd never been displayed the proper image of a healthy relationship. I just dove in, hoping God would take the wheel, but this girl wasn't from God. It was a distraction, and this relationship winded up being extremely toxic. And she led me so far from Christ. And I was anxious all the time, constantly. I didn't understand. But I was so far from God. There was no peace. She pulled me into sin so much that it's kind of like Adam and Eve. How Eve pulled Adam into eating the apple, but it's also Adam's fault because Adam didn't have the obedience and understanding and the power to not fall. He didn't understand, so he took a bite of the apple. And this is like me taking a bite of the apple. She pulled me into sin, and I did things I never thought I would ever do. At least until marriage. And I lost my purity. And with Christ, we are born again. And we are washed clean of our sins. And I am so grateful for that, because one of my biggest fears is finding a godly woman, but this being the reason she doesn't want to be with me because of my one mistake. I'm washed pure with God, and I have this ring, a spinny ring, and I've had it for a long time, and it's not always been this to me, but it has a serenity prayer on it. My mom got it for me years ago. I want to read the serenity prayer before I explain what exactly this ring means to me. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. I call this ring my purity ring, to symbolize that I will not make the same mistake again. I will not fall into that sin again, and I will save myself from marriage. I regret greatly what I did, and I know God forgives me. Only very few people know about this. Very few. That includes, obviously, her mom, a few of my online friends, and 2 kids who went through the awakening this last July when I was trying to help get their act together. But other than that, this is my first time sharing it publicly. I do an internship during second period with 6th graders, and one of them asked me if I'm married. And it's really difficult to explain what exactly this ring means to a 6th grader. I got onto the team for that November's awakening. I was giving a talk, but I was still in a relationship with her, and she pulled me so far from God that I didn't care about these meetings. And of course I attended them, but I was focused on other things rather than God during those meetings, and some of them I missed because of her. And I'm not saying it's all her fault. A lot of it was my fault. The weekend came, or actually before the weekend, on November 14th, which happens to be my dad's birthday, she cheated on me. I found out same day. This was a Tuesday. And the weekend after that was an awakening weekend. The boys' awakening weekend. Her and I tried to stay together, and I went to serve on that awakening that weekend after she cheated on me. But that weekend really helped me realize that I shouldn't be with her. And I prayed to God, help. I don't know what to do. I love this girl, but she's pulling me from you. Like, can I change her? Can I stay with her? Can I do something to keep her in my life? But no. Her and I broke up the Tuesday after the awakening. It was worth it. It was lucky. Not lucky. I was fortunate to have her have cheated on me because, I don't know where I'd be right now if we'd still be together. A super unhealthy relationship or something. And I will admit, I'm not yet over her. And it's been over a year. I still get these chills when I see her. It's like, I don't want to see you. And I've forgiven her as much as I possibly can. And I've prayed to God to help me forgive her. So I just hope that I am okay. And I'm moving on in a healthy manner. And I haven't been in any relationships since her. So, I didn't cope with girls like she coped with several guys after her and I broke up. But after that, I began working on myself. And it said, my thingy says faith. I didn't really start working on my faith for a while. But I started working out for the first time in January of 2024. And then I joined track and field. Was throwing shot and disc. Actually so fun. I'm doing it again this year. It was so fun. God is great. over that time, I didn't really start growing closer. But then I got invited to serve on July's Awakening. So yeah, I took up the offer. At the end of May, I started a weight loss journey, which is before the July Awakening, obviously. Started a weight loss journey, but then I had to have surgery at late June, so my gym goals were stunted, but I continued to lose weight, which is why I'm still a little flabby rather than muscular. I would be so much stronger and leaner had I not had surgery and been out of the gym for a month. But the July Awakening came. I was down around 20 pounds. Pretty fire. But that weekend came and it woke me up. It like actually woke me. Like an actual awakening. I served on the music team for that weekend. And seeing the group of sleepers from a completely different perspective changed the way I thought. After the awakening, I began reading my Bible daily and praying daily. Whereas beforehand, I never read my Bible and I never prayed unless I needed it. I stopped saying curse words at the end of July, and actually at the beginning of July before the weekend, God freed me from lust. I can say that I haven't fallen into that sin since the beginning of July. And yeah, I've had struggles, but, you know, everyone does. I'm human. I just trust on God, and I don't fall. No matter how hard it is, God has me. I then served on the November Awakening after that, and I faced a lot of challenges. And recently, I have been dealing with something quite heavy. And it started 2 weeks before that awakening, the November one. And I guess maybe this was my canon event for October through December. But it's still going on in my head and in my heart. But yeah, there was a person that a girl that I had saw. And I mean, I developed a crush on her long before the November Awakening, but it went away because I never saw her. Or at least I thought it went away. Because she wasn't serving on the team for this. But then I saw her and I froze. Chills. I was walking and talking to someone. And I didn't literally freeze. But I continued talking and I started walking weird. It was not normal. And this girl has always had a glow that I don't know something about it. A Jesus glow, I guess. And I know how devoted she is to Jesus, so, you know. And if she's ever by chance listening to this, you'll probably be able to figure out who you are very soon. I messaged her in July. At the end of July, I actually messaged her asking her out on Instagram because we followed each other. And she never saw the Instagram message until October. So she never responded. Or at least I believe she didn't see it until October because it was never marked as read until October. But she never replied. So I just let it go. But November came and yeah, I saw her and I'm like, what the heck? And then it started really digging into me. I served on the Girls Awakening the next weekend serving meals because you can help serve meals. There's a bunch of meals during the weekend. There's like 2 Friday, 3 Saturday, and 1 on Sunday. So that would make 6 meals overall. You can serve on 5 of them. Well, I would see her every day, and it was like, it was rough. And then the Boys Awakening came too. And also rough because I would see her. She was serving meals. And I mean, she's always been one of the girls that just stay the entire weekend, basically. She goes home at night and then comes back early morning, helps serve. But she's there basically the whole weekend. She helps with kitchen and agape. And if you knew awakening stuff terms, you would know agape. But I was making a sign. I was on music team again, so I was making a little sign for my small music team. It was me, the music leader, Marcus, and Garrett. Fantastic people. I love them like family. They're so talented. Marcus is so good at guitar. It's not even funny. But so I made a little name tag thingy because after the first talk they have you name your group, and we were called the Fishers of Men. So I needed tape so I could tape it on the window next to the couch we were sitting on. So I ran to the agape room, which is where they kept a ton of supplies. And one of the agape guys came out, and I'm like, hey, I need tape, please. And he took me in, and she was in there. So I'm like, I'm just talking to the guy. I'm like, yeah, I just made a sign for my group. I'm going to hang it on the window with tape. And she said, you're naming the window? No, I'm not naming the window. That's like the first time I'd said actual words to her. Basically ever. Yeah. So I said, no, this is for us, but I gotta get back to the room. I gotta hang this on the window, and the next talk is gonna start soon. So I ran back to the room. I'm like trying to breathe, talking to God, like, what the heck, God? Why would you put me in this situation? And then all of a sudden I felt called by God to speak at the end of the weekend, so I did that. And she was right in that front row, like she always is, and just staring into her eyes. I don't know. I've been kind of stuck in this because I don't know what God wants me to do. After that awakening, it was not until like maybe it was late November. I messaged her again, apologizing for the previous abrupt message. I actually can read off the message that I sent to her this time around. I sent the message on December 5th. And I said, hey, I hope you're doing all right. I know we don't talk, so I wanted to reach out and apologize for the abrupt message back in July. I understand you may not have been interested, and I respect that. I would like to be honest, though. You've been on my heart. And I've been talking to God a ton, and I was wondering if you've been studying any specific book in the Bible at the moment. I've been studying Hebrews and started a Luke devotional recently. I hope all is well. God bless. And immediately after sending it, I deleted it on my end. So I can't see the message, but she still can. And I don't know if she's seen the message, and I don't want to bother her messaging her like, hey, have you saw my message? Are you going to respond? Over the weekend, over that awakening weekend, it felt like God was absent. And I'll be real, it still feels like God is absent a lot. But I have faith he's here with me. And I'm barely drifting by right now, to be completely honest. But God is here with me as I struggle. Feels like he's not, but he's here. And that's kind of one of the things that really keep me from falling back into old habits. God is always with me. Why would I want him seeing that kind of stuff? I don't even listen to secular music anymore. It's not even funny. I've just drawn so close to God. And I mean, like, nothing against secular music. I just feel so much more joy listening to worship. Before this semester started, I'm in the second semester of my junior year right now. Before this semester started, this girl, she never really went to school. She was never in public school, as far as I'm aware. I never saw her, but her little brother would go. And then this semester started, and suddenly she's going to public school. But I prayed to God so many times, God, if you don't want me to do anything, if you don't want me with her, if she's not the one for me, please just prevent anything from happening. Me even from, like, seeing her. But then she started going to public school, and I saw her, and I'm like, what? And that was just this last Monday. It's Thursday right now. And that's a big thing that I'm struggling with right now. A big thing that I'm struggling with right now. That, along with my car's shifting solenoid having problems. In school, I am just on the edge. The animals we have, we can't get to control. We can't control. I'm the only one that ever does many chores anymore. And I'm kind of on the edge. But all I can do is trust God, because I know he will pull me through this. Recently, I started reading twice a day, reading my Bible right before bed and in the morning. And I constantly pray. I constantly pray, especially about praying for and about her. And I saw a video just earlier. And they said, I hope the girl you've been praying for and about becomes the girl that you pray with. And yeah, that would be great, but God hasn't made anything clear to me. And I've been just trying so hard to let it go to him, to surrender it to him. And I don't know why I can't. I don't quite understand it. But I mean, there's a reason for it. And I saw so many videos, they say if it doesn't bring you peace, it's probably not from God. And I feel so... I can't tell what it is. This weird feeling. I don't even know. It's like anxiety, but it's not anxiety. Because anxiety is completely different. So I don't know if what's going on is God. I really don't know. It still feels like God is just not here with me, but I know he is. So I'm trusting that he'll show up in big ways. No matter what. I really want 2025 to be a good year compared to the last few years, and all I can do is trust God. So it's in his hands. I don't want to try and take control. I'm a part of a small youth group now. And I mean, we're kind of intimate, kind of not. Like, we talk, but we don't really get like personal. There's some personal things that we get into, but I've never really gotten anywhere personal in it, except for when I was giving testimony at Fields of Faith. They all came, which was awesome to see them there to support me spreading God. I go to church on Saturday. Yeah, I'm one of those. I go to a mega church. It's 45 minutes from my house, called Cedar Creek. But I go on Saturdays because my mom can't get up on Sundays, and I go with her and then go to dinner afterwards in Toledo. I am constantly, at least, trying to serve on an awakening in some way. I love it. It brings me so much joy. No matter what team I serve on, I would want to be there. And I don't know if you're listening to this, Jason, but that would bring me so much joy if God wills. If God wills. My goal for this whole loving Jesus to death thing is to really spread God as far and as wide as I possibly can. Because God came to me when I needed him the most. With the stuff happening with that one girl. And he helped me in a toxic relationship. Removed her from my life so I didn't have to suffer in sin. I'm just waiting for him to show up in this last thing. Because this girl, I don't even know how to explain it. Radiant. Absolutely radiant. Something about brown eyes really gets to me. Especially hers. And just the love for Jesus. I don't know her personally, but I know she loves Jesus. And that just draws me in a way that I just can't explain, I guess. I'm sure if you know, you know. It's kind of one of those situations. If you know, you know. But I want to go out and spread the gospel as much as possible. And I love music, so I want to make Christian music. And I mean, like, I just want to teach about God. And that's what this podcast is going to be. I'm going to come on here, if God wills, every week. And give some sort of biblically accurate teaching. Or maybe even feature someone I know who has testimony about God. That's the entire goal. Right now, my safe place is the gym with worship blasting in my ears. Spend an hour and a half to 2.5 hours there every day. God is really guiding me in a way that I don't understand, but I know he's guiding me in a way that will benefit me when judgment comes. And a lot of this I do feel was guided by God, because I hardly remember anything I've said. Which really makes me think that God's here. But I don't know. Regardless, something's up. So, something mentioned in Acts as a way of fellowship is breaking bread. And I know we're not like literally fellowship getting together, but I like to think of this as some sort of fellowship. So if you aren't fasting, if you aren't busy and you have food lying around somewhere, if you could grab a piece, I'd like to break bread. I got my anabolic dinner. I just threw together because my mom's not home and I'm hungry. And I want to pray, and then we can take a good bite of this and see how it tastes, because I haven't really tasted it yet. It's eggs and hamburger. It's like 2,000 calories in that bowl, and I'm scared to eat it. Father God, I want to thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share what I've been through, to experience with the people on the other side of the screen. And God, I thank you for bringing these people here. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know where I'm going. But I know I can trust by your side. Trust being by your side, God. Throughout this episode, God, I've sat here and I've laughed, I've talked, I've cried, and I've gotten personal in ways that I've never gotten personal with really anybody. So God, I just ask that you bless this, that you bless the people on the other end, and you show whoever needs to see this video, because I'm here to help people, not myself. To be able to love you, God, you, Jesus, like your disciples did. I aspire to love you to death, Jesus. I aspire to love Jesus to death. And God, I hope that the people on the other end of this do too. God, I know I'm struggling. And I know you know. But I can't help but wonder, why? What if this doesn't turn out good? What is God trying to tell me? Because recently it's felt that you've been absent. But I know you're there, God. And you're greater than ever. God, I ask that you bless this food in front of us. We thank you for it. And I ask that it nourishes our bodies. The amount of protein in this meal is insane, God. We just thank you. We praise you, God. We ask all these things in your loving name. Amen. Let's taste this, because I'm genuinely scared. It's literally just meat, eggs, and cheese, a little bit of milk. It's just meat, eggs, and dairy. Like a little bit of teriyaki sauce too. Needs more garlic salt. Yeah, it's pretty good. I hope I don't eat all of this. I hope it gets me full like halfway, so I only eat 1,000, maybe 1,500 calories. Because I only have like 1,500 calories left for the day. Anyway, guys, thank you for joining. I really hope this goes somewhere. I pray that God blesses it. And I hope I can get this up this Sunday. If I can't, that would suck, but I'm going to try my best. God bless you all.